and welcome back to Hot Take, our brand new segment that we started in October, where we're asking entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders, thought leaders, psychologists for their hot take in the world of work. What is true? What is false? And what on earth is going to happen next? This week, we have the incredible Oliver Yonchev. Oliver is an entrepreneur, speaker, and former CEO of FlightStory, the global marketing and innovation group he founded with Stephen Bartlett. For over a decade, Oliver has been at the forefront of marketing and technology, helping guide the management teams of many of the world's most successful companies. Are you ready for some name drops, Al?
Go ahead.
His clients have included Amazon, Apple, Coca-Cola, TikTok, Twitch, Disney, and Uber, to name just a few. I sat down with Oliver this week and asked him for his hot take, and well, it is spicy. Oliver has given us an extremely bold prediction about AI and where it's headed. Let me tell you, it's definitely one that will get you thinking about your job, your future, and pretty much life in general. So strap in. Oliver, over to you.
I'm a failed indie rocker, lifelong marketeer, technology enthusiast. I've spent a career trying to understand people, learn how to effectively communicate with people on the internet, and very much I've anchored my professional endeavors to what comes next, the future technology. I was a benefactor of social media becoming increasingly important in the world, and I want to be a benefactor of this new wave of technological innovation, which is generative AI, and what this means for what I do as a marketeer, but also what it means more broadly for people in general.
I mean, with that in mind, I'm hoping we're going to stick to this AI theme. But Oliver, what is your hot take?
So my hot take is that AI will be capable of doing pretty much everything that you do, you being symbolic for most people, but better within 2 years. Pretty much everything you can do, I think AI will be capable of doing things better than you within 2 years. And my favorite thing to do is make predictions about the future, because you can't prove me wrong today. So I don't have to do the walk of intellectual shame for another 2 years when I'm proven wrong. So a couple of things. So there's a principle called Moore's Law, which dictates that technology doubles in its potential and capabilities every sort of 6 months. What we are seeing with AI is this is happening at an accelerated rate. And if you just go back to, you said ChatGPT there, ChatGPT, go back to 2021 when it was first introduced. It was the first time in a while where we all had an aha moment. It was a bit of a wow of, oh, this is actually really useful. It's emulating intelligence. It seems intuitive. And then if you think of the last 2 years, or 2 to 3 years, we've seen such advancements. These models now are capable of reasoning. They did a study recently. Mensa is the gold standard of intellect, and the O1 model, which was released by OpenAI, that gives up some of its capabilities, speed. It runs a little slower. It validates things. It shows you its thinking pattern. That answered about more than 2/3 of the test correctly, and it had an IQ of 120, which is far surpasses the average person. So you look at that and go, okay, well, that's today. If you'd have done that test 6 months prior, that would have been considerably less intelligent. And if you look at that curve and you see the rate of change, you can assume that we are going to reach a level of general intelligence, AGI, which is the kind of utopia at the point where machine is capable of thinking better than a person. We're arguably going to reach that point within, the next 12 months.
Is this mainly around knowledge-based work, presumably?
So many things. Professional services, absolutely, knowledge-based work. But lots of things. When we talk about AI, a lot of the attention is around generative AI, which is one component that's really going to influence, what they're very good at today is narrow tasks. So AI is very capable of rationalizing huge amounts of data, making sense of them, and then making that data useful in language, in image, in video. And there's multimodality to AI today. So you go, okay, they're very good at those types of things. But AI is very vast. There's huge advancements in robotics. There's huge advancements in predictive AI, looking at, making accurate predictions on what could happen in certain fields. So undoubtedly professional services will be affected. And there's this misconception that AI is new. This thing that post ChatGPT suddenly has come on leaps and bounds. And admittedly, there has been more capital, more investment, more attention, more noise, more minds working towards furthering the AI cause since ChatGPT. But the term was coined back in 1967. And we've all been interfacing with AI in a very meaningful way for a long time. The simplest example I can give you is when you go on to Netflix, your recommendations are different to mine. That's an AI algorithm deciding what's better for you based on your wants, needs, and desires. Your social feeds are an amalgamation of humanity, and it's curating what it believes is more relevant for you to keep you watching your phone. And you can extrapolate this across all advertising, many other fields. So AI is not new, but some of the new applications of AI are really transformative in a meaningful way. And probably the best example that kind of really, I suppose, was a wake-up call for me was the explanation of thinking about the economy at a macro level. So if I said to you, what are the two primary economic costs in the world? There are two. There is energy. What is energy? To create and produce everything around us and move goods and services. That involves energy. And the other is intelligence, human ingenuity, working power, man's thoughts, all of these things working together. And if I said to you the cost of one of those things is being reduced exponentially at a rate thought unthinkable, suddenly that changes the entire system that the world of work is built upon. And there are much smarter people than me who will coin statements like AI is as impactful as electricity or the internet. These are titans of technologies, world leaders that are getting behind this message. And you're seeing it in policy, you're seeing it in impact, you're seeing it in the amount of investment in the space. So as much as it sounds hyperbolic and crazy to say AI will be capable of doing things better than you within 2 years, I don't think it's that crazy. And also, just because it's capable of doing those things doesn't necessarily mean it will. That's the point. Capable and it will, there may be two different things.
So as an entrepreneur, are you excited about how this developing technology can shape the world of work, or are you fearful?
I think as an optimist, generally, I'm really excited. The technology is neither good nor bad. I often liken my first-hand experience to social media. Social media, if you think of the influence that that's had on individuals, on business, on political discourse, on the world around us, it never started that way. It started innocently as a place to connect us online and create better online experiences. That was where it started. And of course, as that went, as it expanded as a capability, and the outcome of that was individuals now had a voice that were not gatekept by large institutions and platforms and media entities and publishers. That was a wonderful thing, and a lot changed. There were some negative things that came along with that. The unintended consequences, you could argue, phone addiction, and the rise in the mental health crisis. There's a lot of baggage comes with transformation. So I'm not naive to the fact that AI will have risks associated with it. And there are many of them. But as an entrepreneur, it has the potential to be a wonderful leveler. Right now, I'm at a disadvantage to the world's biggest companies because I don't have the resources. I don't necessarily have the knowledge or the know-how. If you empower me and augment my life with artificial intelligence and lots of capabilities, suddenly that's an incredible leveler. And I believe that small teams and individuals are now capable of so much more than any other time in history. So if you have a great idea and you have knowledge and you have the right gusto, I think you can achieve a hell of a lot more with technology than you ever could in history. And that for me is encouraging.
For any skeptics listening, or anyone who's just listening going, so AI is going to be better at me and my job in 2 years' time, where does that leave me? Are we going to see huge job losses? Are we going to see, how does that shape it? Or is it more about how organizations will use the technology?
That's a loaded question. Generally, if you look to history, whenever there's been a major technological revolution, some jobs are losses. They become completely redundant. Many jobs get created. But most of all, I think most things just evolve. What we do. In my profession as a marketeer, the role of a marketeer looked very different 30 years ago. The expectations were different, the tools that we use. Fundamentally, the role is the same. Connecting with people, selling goods and services through communication and different platforms. But what we do is very different, and that's a consequence of technological innovation. So if I think about what does it mean for most jobs, I think everybody's job is going to evolve to some degree. I think one of the only defendable things that people have is our imperfections. AI systems, we tend to think of intelligence as one thing. Intelligence is different. A bird flies different to an aeroplane. It's different mechanisms. And I think there isn't just one form of intelligence. So for us, one of the beautiful things about humanity is our imperfections, how emotional we are. For those reasons, we're irrational. And I actually think that gives us many advantages in a world that's simulated by machines. So do I think that jobs, there are going to be some challenges to certain professions? Yes. But I also think this will maybe push forward a new set of rules and institutions where we accelerate the sort of gig economy and the freelance economy, and more people are setting up their own businesses. They realize that there isn't security in traditional institutions. And that can be a wonderfully freeing thing as well. We come to accept the world around us. But maybe if things change in a meaningful way, we can create something better.
Like I said, bold prediction. And I pushed Oliver there. And I must admit, I agreed with pretty much everything he said, but that's boring, isn't it? If I'm like, oh yeah, I know, you're so right. I think the thing that at first I was a bit like, really? And then when I thought about it, I was like, yeah, probably. It's just how that basic point that AI probably does already outperform humans, and if not now, it certainly will in 12 months or 2 years time. I absolutely loved what Oliver then also said about, will it truly replace human intelligence and intuition? And his point was like, no, because there's always going to be that aspect of creativity or emotional intelligence or mistakes and errors that actually lead to further innovation. So yeah, I thought that was a really nice way of kind of saying, yes, artificial intelligence is going to become increasingly important and an increasing part of our lives. But that might actually reinforce what the importance of being human and the value that we bring to the world of work. As somebody who is constantly seems to be arguing with various leaders about the importance of humanity in the workplace, it could be that AI is that has my back. Who knew?
A lot of accidental stuff, humans done things by accident, has created huge innovation. I think penicillin was invented by accident when he forgot to screw the top of the lid on. I can't remember his name, Scottish guy. Do you know his name? No, we'll move
Which
on.
one?
Penicillin guy.
No.
Forgot his name.
Sorry.
Alexander Fleming, I think that's his name. And the other thing to consider is this Moore's Law idea that Oliver brought up. And Moore's Law, I think Oliver explained much better than me, but things sort of halve in size and double in power every 2 years or something. This is happening so much quicker with AI. So we are getting to the point where we've got the AGI probably in the next sort of 5 years. We could be frightened about that, or we could look at ways in which we can create guide rails, or you could just simply look at it and go, right, what can that take over? And what can we move up one level and start thinking about and start being human about? Because let's be honest, AI is phenomenal and I use it pretty much every single day for certain tasks. But I think here's a thought for you. Notebook LLM, or Notebook LM, I think it is, by Google's new experimental thing they'll probably turn off next week. That can create a podcast out of a PDF. However, does that mean that our podcast is more valuable because we put the effort into actually recording it? I think, well, not our podcast, but a human podcast, perhaps. So I think that is true.
Yeah, I mean, the job thing, I had to push Oliver on that. Jobs at risk. I know that's what people worry about, particularly in the current climate and the increasing layoffs that we're seeing. And I think the point is the same, it's the same risk as there was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, as technology has started to advance at such a pace. The jobs that many of us do now weren't even around when our parents were joining the workforce. I think it's just a natural evolution of work. Yes, there will be certain jobs that humans may well be made redundant from, but that should hopefully create a whole load of other jobs that we can step into.
I think the last thing to consider on this is that if you stop thinking of AI as one big thing and start thinking of it as maybe autonomous agents, that's a really nice way to look at it. There's something which OpenAI have released this week called Swarm, as in a swarm of bees. And basically it's how to manage lots of different AIs or lots of different LLMs to do specific tasks. And so that's a really smart way to do things, I think, because number one, you can test them much easier. Number two, you can actually have some human overview over the individual parts of each task that's doing. But thirdly, you can start to create a chain of outputs that will be better than handing over human to human, again, allowing that human to move up into a more supervisory role, perhaps, rather than actually technical. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leanne will be posting this on LinkedIn, so have a look on LinkedIn. Look at Leanne or Truth, Lies and Work, whichever page. I can't remember which. I think you pretty share it from. They'll be both. Tell us what you think. Really interested in what your thoughts are. What can be replaced? What can't be replaced?